Hi friends, I have some questions from y'all today and I am happy to answer them. If I didn't get to yours yet, please ask it again below and I'll try to get to it in an upcoming video. So let's start off. First question is, I'm currently in college and trying to pay for everything myself. That being said, I'm wondering how much I should keep in my savings account. First off, good for you for trying to pay for college and everything yourself instead of taking out student loans to live off of or racking up credit card debt. Not a good idea. Been there. Dave recommends a $500 to $1,000 emergency fund. The $500 is in case you're very low income. But it sounds like you are pretty fiscally responsible. It wouldn't hurt to have $1,000 in there, but it definitely start with $500. And then as you're trying to pay for everything, of course, budget it out. If you have to pay for the next semester's tuition, figure out how much you need to save each month to cash flow that. And so that'll also be kept in a savings account. You might want to keep it in a different one than your emergency fund. But thank you so much for asking and good luck. It sounds like you're on the right track. Next question. Do you have at least one credit card? When you need to book a flight or take a trip and they ask for a credit card to hold a room, what will you do when that time comes? I have booked flights, I have booked hotel rooms, I have booked cars, all with a debit card, all successfully, and I've never had a problem. I really think it's a big lie floating around out there that you need a credit card in your life. I cut up mine a long time ago. Haven't looked back. Dave Ramsey and his entire team don't operate with credit cards, and they are a huge business. They have to book flights, reserve venues all the time. They use debit. They use checks. They don't use credit. He's a completely credit-free business. And if he can do it and I can do it, you can do it too. So you don't need a credit card. I don't have a credit card. At this point, it's not because I can't be trusted with one. There are 1,000 companies out there that would totally issue me a credit card, but it's because I've found a better way of just paying for things right off and not having to worry about interest or a bill coming later. It's just not a necessary part of my life, like a fish with a bicycle, girl with a credit card. Alrighty, debit's fine. I've done all those things with debit cards. So, alrighty. And sometimes when, you call a hotel or something, and they're like, can we get a credit card to put on file? Just give them the debit card. They mean a card to put on file, an account to hold money against. Debit works too. Exact same thing. The machines can't even tell the difference most of the time. All right. Question. And these businesses, they want your money, by the way. They want your money whether it's credit or debit. Next up. How did you become the way you are? Did you take economics in college? Were your parents thrifty? Did you hit rock bottom and have to have a fresh start? Inquiring minds want to know. Good question. My parents were not thrifty. In fact, my mom had a bit of a shopping problem. It was undiagnosed, but she was ill. And the only thing that seemed to make her feel better was shopping. And so every single weekend, we'd go shopping, and we spent hours shopping. And she purchased stuff that she didn't need at all. She'd buy half a dozen. Ran out of memory. So, okay, my parents didn't really teach me about money. The habits that were kind of instilled in me as a kid was that any free time you went shopping. And my mom kind of hoarded things, and I wasn't really taught those habits growing up. I wasn't given an allowance. I wasn't allowed to earn money for like commission or anything like that. In fact, even if I got money for like my birthday or Christmas or something, my mom would do something with that. Now, I'm not saying my parents were bad or anything like that. They were excellent parents, but they didn't teach me anything about money. So any skills that they had, money, and I think I remember my mom mentioning once that the only time they ever went into debt was when I was like a baby, and they got a lot of like professional kind of, like Sears-y pictures done. And so I don't think they lived a life of debt, but I also know that they didn't teach me anything about money management. So when I got to college, I had some scholarships, and I took out student loans for the rest of it. And then I took out more student loans to live off of. And I worked in college, but I didn't I didn't really have a good money background. Anytime I got money, I spent it. And so when I got out of college and I was working and all these student loans were coming due, I didn't have any money. And I deferred for a while, and that's why they went up, because I graduated with $27,000 worth of student loans. And by the time I got to pay it, got around to paying it, it was close to $33,000. So I was working at a newspaper in Columbus, and I got laid off. The paper was having financial issues. They found someone who could do the job that I had created there, this feature section for a crime newspaper, and I created it, and they found someone who could maintain it for a lot less than they were paying me as someone who had kind of created it and gotten it to be successful and get it into motion. So, yeah, I didn't have a job. I was on unemployment, and it took me close to 5 months to find a new position before I moved down to Hammond. So I decided during that time of unemployment, where I was barely scraping by, that I really needed to get a handle on my finances, and I really needed to, instead of actually just knowing about the Dave plan, which I had known about for a while, and kind of doing a budget and then not following it, I needed to actually make a life change. And so I decided to do that, and I started, once I got my job down in Hammond, I started really aggressively paying off debt and side hustling. And then I started the YouTube channel, and I haven't looked back since then. It's such a better way to live. So rock bottom, kind of. I was not instilled as a child with money sense at all, and I didn't take any classes in college. I didn't take any classes in high school that taught me how to budget or earn money. I didn't really know that there was a system until Dave Ramsey. I was introduced to his system and like, hey, this is how you do it. It's a very simple series of steps, and if you follow it, you'll be successful. And that's what I needed. I needed a plan and a structure that was possible for me to follow, instead of just trying to not do anything, which was obviously not working for me. So yeah, that's how I got around to this. I would love to know how you guys ended up in the budgeting community, and if you were raised knowing how to be frugal and to save money and invest it and all sorts of stuff like that. So, all right, next question. As a hairstylist, a good portion of my money I get is cash. How do I deposit cash into a 360 account, Capital One 360 account? My bank doesn't offer free savings, and I want to start a sinking funds account. Okay, you can't deposit cash into Capital One 360 accounts, but you can transfer money from a regular bank account into 360 accounts. So I have 2 bank accounts, not 4, 2. I have a Capital One 360 account, which has sub-account. It's a checking account, and there's a bunch of savings in it. It's all in one login and everything. And then I have a daily account at a local bank. Now, my work gives me checks. They don't do direct deposit. So I have to figure out the same thing too, is how do I get this into the form where I can spend it online and digitally. So I do all of my everyday banking out of my local bank, and anytime I need money in my Capital One 360 account, I just create a transfer from Capital One 360 to my regular bank, pull it out completely fee-free. So that is how you do it. You would need to deposit your cash into your regular bank account and then transfer it over. So, all right. I also had another question about this. It was, why don't you have your emergency fund in your regular bank account? And I didn't write it down because it was a question I saw like yesterday morning. So the reason that I had 2 different bank accounts, because this person didn't understand why I had multiple accounts instead of just one account with everything, is that one, my everyday bank account, which is through a local bank, doesn't offer any interest. And so I keep all of my savings, all of my sinking funds, anything I don't need for kind of my day-to-day, month-to-month activities in a Capital One 360 account so that it earns interest. Now, it's less than 1%, but it's more than nothing. And so it also has a second purpose of, if all of my money were just in one checking account, it would seem like I had a lot of money when that money is allocated. I have a sinking fund for Rory's annual shots. I used to have a sinking fund for Christmas before I went scorched earth. I have my emergency fund. I have a car repair replace fund. So I have all these accounts that are labeled in Capital One 360, and it's all free, and they each have a purpose. And so visually, I can see that I don't just have this big pile of money to access from, which would make me spend more, just straight up. If I had all the money that I have in my Capital One 360 accounts, all in my Union Bank account, along with all the money I just need every day for like groceries, gas, etc., I would definitely feel like I could swipe my card a few more times. Debit card, of course, but still. Keeping my savings and any sinking funds, anything that I don't need right now, anything that's for the future, in a completely separate bank works really well for me and works really well for a lot of people when it comes to just budgeting and when it comes to mentally preparing for future things. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I only access my Capital One 360 account when I need something from it. So if there were an emergency, if if it comes time for Rory's annual shots and I need to pull some money out of there. So my Union Bank account, my local bank, brick and mortar bank, I deposit my paycheck in it and I use it for I use some of that for groceries, gas, everyday bills, that kind of thing, insurance, and it all comes out of there. And anything I don't need from there, I transfer it into my 360 for future stuff and also to my debt. So it's just a way of compartmentalizing your money and keeping it organized. I don't know what I would do if I had that much money in just my one bank account. Also, if there was ever any reason why I couldn't access my regular bank account, I also have a backup. So say I lose my debit card and it's going to take them 3 days to send me a new one. I have another bank account that I can pull some money out of in the meantime. So I like that double layer of security there. It's fun for me. And I think it's smart too. A lot of people have found a lot of success using that and separating money for future things from their everyday spending money. All right. Let's see. When you get very close to paying your debt off, say $2,000, are you going to negotiate the last amount? Would you walk in or call with $500 and say, look at my amazing payment history, I kick butt. Can you guys accept this $500 as my last payment and offer me forgiveness on the remainder? I know a lot of loan companies will offer forgiveness if you ask for it. Have you already done that, or is it in your plan? Well, if you had super outstanding like medical bills or defaulted credit card bills, something like that, that might work. But student loans are federally secured by the government. So they're going to get your money. If you don't pay it, if you don't pay on your student loans, eventually they'll garnish your paycheck. So there's no real negotiating to be done. They know you owe the money. You know you owe the money. And they don't have to take a cent less than you owe. And they'll keep coming after you for every single cent until you've paid it or you die. Those are pretty much the only two options. There are a few like forgiveness programs if you're like in government service or if you're permanently disabled, but federal student loans don't offer one of those where you can offer them less and they'll clear the debt for you. So no, I'm not planning on doing that because I can't. I'm just going to pay it off and then never take out student loans ever again, or hopefully really borrow any money ever again unless I'm purchasing like a house one day. So that is my current plan. Alrighty. Final question. Thank you for sharing how you budget. You've definitely given me a few ideas. I would like a few ideas I would like to implement in my budget. I'm completely new to budgeting and building credit. I have strayed away from credit/debt for years. I'm 25 with no debt, no credit, and will be getting married soon. So I hope to embark on this new adventure with wisdom and with the discipline I have had for years. I've recently gotten a credit card for my fixed expenses. I know I sound crazy. I mean, hello. Any suggestions? You have not come to the right person if you want me to give you advice on how to utilize credit cards. I understand that some responsible people use credit cards regularly. That said, at the end of the day, I don't recommend them. A lot of big financial experts like Dave Ramsey don't recommend them because it's been scientifically proven that you spend more money if you use credit cards. Also, even if you pay them off every single month and you never pay interest, eventually you're going to forget something and you're going to pay a little interest. And part of my philosophy is never paying more money than I have to for something. So I use debit, I save up and I pay cash for things. I do not think that you need a credit score to get along in life. Even if you're purchasing a house or something, they can manually underwrite you. If you're going to check into a hotel or book a flight, you can use debit. I don't think credit is necessary, and I've been able to get along without it for many years, and I know a lot of people who've been doing it, even running their businesses without using credit. So I'm not going to recommend that you keep doing that. I can't tell you what to do, and I'm certainly not going to judge you for using credit, but my advice is always going to be on this matter that you're playing with fire a little bit. You're playing with fire. Eventually you might get bit. Eventually you might be okay. I'm pretty good at playing with like literal fire. I grew up a Girl Scout, but occasionally even I got burned, and I was really good at it. So, you know, s'mores, they just look so good. So, yeah, do what you're going to do, but be careful with it. If you've gone until 25 without any credit, you can probably live until 50 without any credit. It sounds like you've been living a good, wise life. And if you don't have any debt so far, you can probably keep getting along without it just perfectly fine and continue to build your wealth and go into your marriage just living and giving like no one else and building up on the plane without kind of dealing with the credit monster that will inevitably gnash its teeth at you. Okay, so that's all the questions I have time for today. Please ask yours below. I would love to hear from you guys. I will see you next week. Bye. Rory only supports credit if you're purchasing dog treats. But she doesn't know what she's talking about. Just kidding. Rory doesn't know what credit is.